Welcome to another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Your host, Adi Arnell, my man G Wick. What's up, G Wick?
Tighten up, baby. Tighten up. What's going on?
Tighten up, man. A few days away. You can feel it now. Training camp, the 28th, couple more days. What you think, man?
I don't know, man. You know, I'm having mixed emotions right now, man. You know, I'm excited because it's training camp, but I'm upset because I can't go. You know, so I'm just a mixture of emotions right now, man. You know, I'm up and I'm down. I'm up and I'm down. You know, don't even know if we're gonna get to go over to the stadium to watch them practice once or twice. You know, it's just one of them things, man. You know how it is. Just one of them things. But I'll get over it. We got football season. That's the main thing.
We do, man. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Some things have happened since the last show, last Sunday, and you know, some rules came out about free agency. Had some cuts made of a few players. Nothing of significance at this moment, and no additions either. But there's still some talk out there about some players we might need to look at because they kind of structure those rules now around physicals and stuff. So you know, we got a little bit more framework about how they can go about signing more free agents and getting them in for their physical. Yeah.
It's not as simple as you would think. And the fact, one of the things is that one, they can't, as we noted in the art, they can't have tryouts.
Right.
You know, no tryouts for anybody. You know, and that's a little difficult. And how they're going to do free agent signings and everything, because really, this year is almost a roll of the dice, man. It literally is almost a roll of the dice. You got to be really careful about how they're going to do it. They got to be real intentional, because without having tryouts or people to come in to be able to work out or anything like that, really the only thing you got to go on right now is the physical, which is another thing altogether. I mean, the physical, when you look at that situation, I mean, that's really crazy.
Right.
You know, they got to take a physical by the team physician, and then you know, it's just they got to report all of that to the league office and everything. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and you know, Grover, who this really hurts are those undrafted guys that didn't get opportunity to get picked up early on in the offseason, and now, you know, not with the ability not to have tryouts, you know, it's a shot in the dark really for those guys this year anyway, and then not knowing if the XFL is going to come back or whatever that might be. So it's really going to be tough on those guys that didn't get drafted, and you know, heart goes out to them because it's a tough position to be, right? You, especially the guys that came out early, possibly. Yeah. And so we'll see what happens. Maybe as time goes on, you know, they'll be able to get added to a roster as, you know, injuries take place or whatnot, or if this coronavirus kind of tapers off. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. And so, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. You know, you already mentioned the free agency rules with no trials, but the teams may have the players come in and take physicals by their physicians.
Yeah.
And if the club has already started camp, then they can participate. But if they haven't, they can't do anything.
They can't do anything.
Trades and waivers, the same thing. So more to come on that. I know there's, you know, still big talk about Clowney and some other guys out there still with the cap space the Titans have and the needs that they still have to address, particularly on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, and that's going to be the interesting thing about this whole free agency waiver deal, because unless the waiver situation is a little bit different if they pick players up off the waiver, because they've already been through the COVID-19 protocol and everything, so that's a little bit easier.
Right.
But for those who are not already in camp on a team, to have to go through the team physician, then got to go through the COVID-19 protocol and everything, it's just not a simple, you know, sign up, you know, player take a physical, you sign him, he comes in. And the other thing I didn't even realize, but I should, because of all the pictures we always get on social media and everything, the NFL does not allow electronic signatures.
You're right. I saw that.
I never knew that. I know, you know, you always see the guys sign it, but they have to literally sign the contract and send that contract in. So it's a whole different ball game. Like I said, you find out some different things about the NFL during this time and doing this avenue that you just didn't know before. And that's one thing that just caught my eye, that they don't allow electronic signature. I understand it. It just caught my eye that they didn't do it. And so that's the other thing about it. They have to literally, if they go to sign a free agent, they pass the physical, the COVID-19, they send them the contract. They got to send a paper contract. Can't be electronic.
Yeah, it's a lot of things changing this year. So we'll see, man. A couple of days, players are starting reporting this week for several teams, including the Titans. And so we'll see what happens. And so as we break down our last couple of positions tonight, Grover, as we had a series of shows breaking down every position on the field. And so now we want to look at the quarterback and the running back position. In particular, we want to start the running back position because, we got King Henry back there.
Yes.
26 years old, and it's a telling stat for the Titans that 20 to 25 rushes a game, they're gonna win. Actually, 100 yards when he rushes for 100 yards at 13-0, and so I looked that up, saw that, and so that goes to tell you right there that he is a key element, if not the main element of this offense, and how Tannehill can work together to have that offense, flying high this season.
Well, Eddie, let's put it like this. Ever since we've had Derrick Henry, from the time he got drafted, what have we always said?
Feed the beast.
He's a volume runner.
Right.
You got to feed the beast. And I think what you saw last year, what everybody finally caught on, even the league caught on to the fact that he's very similar to Eddie George. The more carries you give him, towards the end of the game, those, like they said, those 3 to 4 yard runs all of a sudden become 8, 12, 15. And if you're not careful, he's going to bust it out for 65 and take it to the house. He has that type of speed. So, we've always said that. We've known it. We watched him when he played at Alabama. So we would always see in the first half when he played at Alabama, he would only have maybe like 50-something yards. Then by the end of the game, he's got 200 plus. It's the same thing working out in the NFL. You see him. I would say the exception was the New England game in the playoffs when he had almost 120 yards in the first half.
Right.
So, it's just one of them things where you have a guy who's unique. Is he a great pass catcher? No. But can he get the job done on screens and everything? He proved that last year. His blocking is improving over what it used to be. It's still not great, but at least when you got him in there on third down and you run and play action, he's going to slow the man down coming up the middle. So he's better than what he was when he first got there. So that's what you like. He keeps improving. And again, this guy, he's in it for the long haul. He got his contract. He wanted to stay here, which is something is rare these days. And, didn't even care about being the number one paid running back, but he wanted his pay to reflect the respect that he deserves. And I think that's what he got. So, I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Right. And to mention that, you make a good point there about him not wanting to break the bank because he wants to build his team, wants to add players to this team to take this team to the next level. And that shows a lot of character by him, as you mentioned. And but again, he gets his respect for the running back he is by some standards. Some people say no, he didn't. But, he got a good deal. The Titans got a good deal, and he's locked in for at least 2 more seasons guaranteed. And then we'll see after that what happens as he gets closer to being 30 years old.
Hey man, look, if you watched any of his workouts on social media, man,
yes,
this joker's a monster. I'm like, good grief.
So Darius Williams says, man, he don't take pay, he gives it. That's right, Darius. He's probably got the best stiff arm currently in the game. And nobody likes.
We could always ask Earl Thomas about that, can't we?
As my man Jabbar Lewis says, they make a lot of business decisions when they try to come up and tackle the beast.
Absolutely, and it, like we said it again in that after that Baltimore game, a lot of people got introduced to that stiff arm in the Baltimore game, So, but a lot of people do make business decisions. We saw that in a lot of games. Those DBs, they make business decisions because, especially towards the end of the game, Tony Romo would say it best. They just don't want to tackle him.
Right. Exactly.
And they're already tired, and he's running hard.
He's still running hard.
Yeah. So it's just one of them things, man, where he's that unique back. He's actually a throwback when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Which fits this team perfectly because we're an old school football team, which I totally love. So we're physical, we play hard, and when you come on the field, you're going to get a game out of them, and that's what I like to see. So he's the premier back. people rank him differently. I don't even care about all that. I just care about what he does on the field for us. And the man, he gets the job done.
Right. As long as he shows up, he gives that effort as we saw he had the bye week when he talked to Eddie George. Ever since then, he's been a different running back in this league for this football team. And so some of his stats from last year, girl, of course, he had 1,540 yards. That was only in 15 games. So just imagine if he wasn't hurt, possible another 200-yard game, right?
Yeah. And again, you figure, look at his yardage in the playoffs.
Right.
If you put that on top of that,
in two games. In playoffs, he had 377 yards. So I mean, incredible numbers for this guy. And it goes to tell you how this offensive line gelled from the beginning of the year, what we saw in those first 4 or 5 games up until the stretch run. Derrick Henry ran on the stretch in 8 games of 1,273 yards and 11 touchdowns, 6.2 yards per carry. So the offense was clicking. The numbers show it, and that's one game against the Chiefs. That Week 10 game, he had 188 yards.
Yeah.
So he's the horse of the offense. He's what makes it go. And if he's not in there, then his offense don't work like he could. Right?
Yeah, which is I guess we're getting ready to go to our next one. So, which is one of the reasons why Dion Lewis proved to be expendable.
Right.
Because generally, once he got in the game, it was everybody knew what the team was getting ready to do.
That's
right. They weren't worried about the run or anything. They were just more or less, they could come with a blitz because they knew he was in the game. Now, granted, the thing you liked about him is that he was good at pass protection. Mm-hmm. He would pick up the blitzers. He would give Tannehill the time he needed. But the problem is when you put him in the game, you were one dimension. At least with Derrick Henry in the game, the threat of the run could on play action could hold the linebackers and actually open up some space behind them for the receivers to get open.
Well, after they got that turnover against the Ravens, when they came out there play action, hit Khalif Raymond deep down the field. You saw the linebacker sucked in big time. They came out in tight formation, run formation for the most part.
Yeah.
And then, hit them deep. So just to your point, that's exactly what happened. And so as we, Derrick Henry, of course, 4 years, $50 million extension and 2 years of that guarantee with 25.5 guarantee for the next upfront money. And so, again, great contract for the Titans. And Dion says that he's come to grips with the critics who thinks that Derrick Henry's contract was a bad deal. Obviously, doesn't watch the Titans football and clearly don't have any common sense. Good point.
Well,
I appreciate that.
The problem people have with that deal is the fact that, you gave it to a running back. And historically, over the past few years, let's put it like that. Over the past few years, historically, running backs who get a good deal like that, generally something happens and they don't fulfill the deal. I mean, and everybody thinks back to Chris Johnson with the Titans once he got his deal, not taking into account how bad the offensive line turned when he got it. Mm-hmm. They think about Todd Gurley. They think about my boy that just signed with Houston. They think about all those guys, and rightfully so. Right. But the Titans were smart enough. They did this deal was very team friendly. It gave Derrick Henry the raise that he proved he deserved, and it also give the Titans an option to whether they can move forward quickly. They won't be tied up for very long, as opposed to what happened with Todd Gurley and what happened with my man down in Arizona. So
David Johnson.
Yeah. So that makes the deal the deal that we got with Derrick Henry a lot better than what people think, and that's the reason why. A lot of those only people who are criticizing really, they come in two camps. They either say that we gave him too much, or they say we didn't give him enough.
Right.
But Derrick Henry's a smart guy, as you said, and he made a team. He wanted to make a team friendly that way. If they need to add pieces, they got it going. And remember, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady went for years not being the top paid quarterback, even when but all he cared about was winning Super Bowls. Right. Derrick Henry, all he cares about is winning Super Bowls. So he wants them to get the best team together so we can get out here and play. As he says, why not us?
Right. And that goes to Dion's point. Again, a guy that sees the future and doesn't really worry about his current situation. And that's how teams maintain their football teams as far as building that core and that talent and being competitive each year for long periods of time because they have the cap money. They are able to bring people in, and you see it with the Patriots every year. You see it with, the Cowboys somewhat. You see it with those teams like that.
The Steelers are the same way.
Right. Able to maintain their football team, the Eagles in some fashion. And so, you got those teams, the Saints, you got those teams like that, and Kansas City might be in a better position now so they gave Mahomes that contract, although people say it was a lot of money, which he was, but still, for long haul, they got their quarterback locked up. But anyway,
I mean, go ahead, man. Go ahead. You're right.
One comment I want to get in, and Will got in early. He said there was an article that came out from the Broncos. DB says Tennessee has an advantage for week 1. He said they got a bunch of new players, haven't got the chemistry as Tennessee yet, and there'll be a problem for the new guys. So I want to get that in before we got too far down the show. Thank you, Will, for that comment. And so, that plays a part, right? It plays a part, especially, you got a different offseason this year. and Will, Grow is acting like this because he don't like to predict games and things of that nature. So, but he's got a good point. When you don't have time to get the chemistry together, look, you can only do so much tackling and physical practice together amongst the teams. Not to worry about it.
This is true.
And so when you don't get that opportunity to do much of it, you are going to be a step behind.
Well, here's the thing: the Titans got an advantage of this year as opposed to what they've had in years past. Continuity. Yep. With the exception of the defensive coordinator, you basically got good continuity on both sides of the ball.
Right.
They've made some changes and everything, but especially on the offensive side of the ball, where you only really changed one person, and that was Jack Conklin. Mm-hmm. And even then, you replaced him with somebody who's been here throughout the entire time, so he fits right in. Right. So, on the offensive side of the ball, there's some continuity things that they got going on, but still you're talking about this year and just, I hate to throw water on the fire, but I'm going to have to. Ryan Tannehill is going to be his first year being the full starter. He's still got to work with all the receivers, get the continuity with them and the chemistry with them. You got to have Darrington Evans, or whoever the backup running back is going to be. He's got to get in there. Now, granted, the core pieces, that continuity is there. You got the same OC, running back coach, offensive line coach, so all that is there. But, you just never know how these things pan out, man. You just don't. That's when I don't like to say anything. It's the NFL, man. It's the NFL. Yeah. You just don't know.
And I understand that too. And appreciate that, Will, for the comment, man, and keep it coming.
I mean, like I said, I hate to throw water on the fire, man.
Yeah, but I know you do. But like you said, it's different this year because there's not a lot of time and preparation that you would normally get to put in going into the season. So those teams that have the players, majority of them coming back from last season, are going to be a step ahead, like you said. The coaches are still in place except for the secondary coach, and you don't have a DC just yet, but you got the offensive coordinator, which is good because we've changed so many here in the last few seasons. Now you got a guy that was in there for the whole year. He got his feet wet. He got his feet wet in the playoffs. He's got the experience now in those tough games, right? You got Tannehill that went to the playoffs, got some experience under his belt. You got Vrabel. Now, he's been in the playoffs before as a player, but now, as a head coach, he's got that experience. And so a lot of that's going to play a factor, this in my opinion, going into this 2020 season with a tough schedule as we looked at right on the road at Denver with a Jarrell Casey led defense
with a mad Jarrell Casey.
That's right. And playing in Denver, right? Yeah. And on a Monday night at the second game of a doubleheader, so it's going to be tough.
And remember, Bradley Chubb is coming back on that defense.
Right. Von Miller.
That defensive line is going to be a monster, man. Those linebackers are going to be monsters. Secondary is good. So you got to, I understand the DB saying that, but he's just blowing smoke. He knows what he's got coming in with his team, so he's just blowing. That's the reason when I saw that article, I didn't even pay attention to it. I'm like, he's just blowing smoke. He's trying to get the team softened up so, they won't come in ready. But, Vrabel is a better coach than that. He will have the team ready to go.
So here's another one from Jabbar, man. Appreciate you joining us tonight. He said, with the weird offseason and training camp coming up, how do the Titans keep the kryptonite known as hamstrings in check, especially with no preseason games, right? So all the preseason games have canceled now, if you guys don't know that. And so that's a great point. And here's my take. And so I don't know how much working out people have been doing, and hopefully they have been getting something in. We saw, like you say, we've seen Derrick Henry on social media running heels and doing all kind of drills. Hopefully they've all been doing that. I know Byard, he was on social media doing some things. It's going to be really important to get that conditioning done early. And so how many weeks of conditioning do you do? How many weeks of lifting? Because, you look at it, you really got only a couple more days this month. You got all of August, and then the season starts like the first weekend of September, second weekend of September. So now, you got an opportunity to. Conditioning is going to really be key right now, and weightlifting is going to be really key. Stretching, calisthenics, all that stuff to keep those injuries at a minimum.
Well, let me give you what the NFLPA put out as far as what's going to happen. The 28th through the 31st is COVID testing, and then you start August the 1st and the 2nd. That's when they have the physicals and they get their equipment.
Right.
August the 3rd, that's when they start 60 minutes in the weight room, 60 minutes on-field conditioning. And then it's all that first week is all strength and conditioning. There is no padded practices or anything like that. Everything they do small groups, but even in the small groups, they cap the practices at 2 hours,
right?
120 minutes. So it's just one of them things. Like I said, and on the people around are the strength and conditioning coaches. Same thing with on the field is they're dividing them up: QBs, receivers, kickers, punters. Long snappers are permitted to use the footballs. Those are only ones. So it's all a different ball game, man. They're trying to adjust it for the fact that they're not going to be playing any scrimmages. They're not going to be playing any preseason games. So basically, what you're going to have happen if I'm a coach, then we're playing offense versus defense in practice, because since the practices are closed, you can do that. If you're going to have a padded practice, hey, look, we got an hour of game. Get ready.
Yeah.
And that's right. That's the only way you can do it, because if you don't, then that's old school. That's what they used to do back in the day. If you don't do it that way, when the season starts, there's going to be a lot of hamstring injuries, a lot of muscle pulls, because nothing replaces that push and pull that you get in the contact and everything when you have those padded practices or those games. So you got to have them. So I can guarantee you, Bill Belichick is like, we're going to have some games in practice.
I mean, that's the only way you can get that type of action in, right? You're going to have, like you said, more padded practices, more inter squad scrimmages. You don't have to so much tackle to the ground, but at least butt up, wrap up and get that contact going, because see game one, and if you hadn't tackled, if you hadn't practiced tackling, if you hadn't had any physical contact, you're gonna be in trouble.
You're gonna be in trouble
up in Denver. Not just the Titans in particular, but just anybody, right? Anybody.
Yeah.
In the NFL, which like you said, I'm sure there's going to be more scrimmaging in the squad than anything, just to get prepared for that.
It's going to have to be, man.
It's going to have to happen.
I mean, come on, man. You played the game. You know good and well that if you can't have that physical contact or whatever, you're just not ready to play. That's why what we say when people come back from injury. Yeah, they stayed in shape, but are they in football shape?
It's a big difference. It's being in shape, football shape. Because what's fun is I've been working out these kids along with my son, conditioning. I said, hey, if you're hot now without pads on, wait till you get the pads on and you start practicing and conditioning. It's a whole nother ball game.
It's a whole nother ball game.
You had a different level.
This off season is going to be really different, and just to see how everything goes. I mean, and when you think about it, the rookie wall may be different this year. It may be sooner, more than as opposed to later,
right?
For a lot of these players and everything. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see how they do. But the one thing that's going to actually change, again, this is going back a little bit to old school, is the fact that more than likely your vets are going to be leading the way and starting the games, as opposed to seeing a lot of rookies get in the game. It's just not going to happen. Some will come through the mix and get out there, whether it be special teams or skill positions, and maybe Isaiah Wilson on the offensive line. But it's going to be a slow walk, because they just have not had that normal workout that rookies would get during the year, and they don't get a chance to have in the game film. So it's going to be interesting to watch how they do all this off season.
Yeah, and to your point there, and so that'll tell you right there that Isaiah Wilson will probably not play the first 4 games.
No.
He's not going to be ready.
Like I said,
game shape, right?
Yeah. Well, like I said,
game shape. You go run those drives that Titans, like to have last year when they had 15, 16 plays when you're just smashing the football down the field. And man, that wears on the offensive line. I know it does defensive line, but offensive line would get tired too. And so if you hadn't had that that effect or that experience during camp where you've had those preseason games, you've been on those long drives, it's going to be a new experience when you get out there in this live game action. And, he'd be tapping on his helmet like, Coach, I need to come out. I need to come out.
Man, it's first and goal. You can't come out.
On the goal line? Come on, man.
But you're exactly right. But like we said earlier when we talked about the offensive line, more than likely Isaiah Wilson will get his reps in on the jumbo packages and everything. He'll see some playing time throughout the season. But if anybody's really expecting him to start, he's going to show out on these next 6 weeks of training camp, man, in order to prove that he's ready to start. It's just too hard. I mean, you got to be used to the line calls and everything. And you saw what happened with Nate Davis last year, even at guard, how hard it was for him. And it really wasn't until around about the end of November, 1st of December, that he actually started. You saw his improvement game to game where he wasn't making as many mistakes as he did in the beginning of the year. But it took a while. So, yeah, Isaiah Wilson, even though he's playing tackle, he won't be starting. It'll be Dennis Kelly. They might as well get ready for that.
Right. Deion says that his main concern in the Denver game, we were speaking of that real quick, was Jurrell Case. And he said, so since they hadn't really had a preseason to work out, he said he thinks that getting used to that altitude for him is going to be a factor in that game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's a lot of what ifs and things that they're going to take place. And we'll see, it's going to be different. It's going to be different.
Let's just remember one thing.
What's that?
This is July.
It is July.
Okay, don't worry about Jurrell Case until September rolls around. Then we worry about Jurrell Case. But this is July right now, so I'm sorry. I'm pouring water on the flames today. Everybody needs to calm down a little bit.
Let's get back to the running backs, man. We need to talk about Darrynton Evans, Appalachian State, 5'10", 203, running 4.41, backup running back. Right now, over 4,600 all-purpose yards. We talked about him during the draft. Two-time MVP, the Sun Belt MVP, the New Orleans Bowl in 2019. So the guy has a motor. He can return kicks. He can catch balls. He can, he had at least 11 runs of at least 50 yards in his final over 50 yards, 11 of them over his final 2 seasons. And the most impressive thing to me, Grove, as we talked about when we did our draft show, was he set school records for the most career rushes without a fumble. So that's pretty unique right there.
Yes.
For a running back of his size and caliber. And so, potentially a home run threat. I know some folks that usually watch the show were saying he's going to be the X factor of the offense, which I do believe as well. He's going to bring a different dynamic. So, Darrynton Evans, what do you think, Grover?
Well, and I say this with a word of caution again, because again, you're talking about another rookie. He's going to see some significant playing time. There's no doubt about that. He's going to have to beat out Sonoris Perry from Buffalo. I mean, you're gonna see those two really duke it out as far as being that backup to Derrick Henry. And again, I look at it in the same situation that I look at with Isaiah Wilson. He'll get some playing time. Darrynton Evans will, but he's going to beat out Sonoris Perry overall, and that's going to be the difference. I think you'll see those two interchangeable behind Derrick Henry. That's what's going to happen, because again, you got to get used to running in the NFL, and there's a lot of difference between the linebackers that he faced at Appalachian State than the ones he's going to face in the NFL on a weekly basis. So that's going to be the difference for him. So, but I think he's going to be good. Again, his question, pass protection is one key. Being able to run between the tackles, he's got to be a running threat. Right. If you're not a running threat, he's not going to do us any good, really.
You mentioned Sonoris Perry. He's another big running back that runs physical. Like you said, he'll be competing for that back running back position amongst the guys that we brought in. Still Dalen Dawkins is still on the team. He probably won't make it this year unless it's special teams. But Kyrie Blasingame, you gotta give props to my boy there, man. Fullback out of Vanderbilt, played good football team down the stretch last year. I see them using him more in the passing game. He showed some good hands, especially in the Raiders game. He caught that ball on the sideline and got a first down. And so I see more coming out of him as far as the backfield goes. And, really good stable running backs for this football team for 2020.
Yeah, and Blasingame is really a next factor. They like him. Blocks extremely well. So, and one thing you like about him, which is one of the reasons why I think they basically signed all the tight ends back, is the simple fact that he gives you at playing fullback, he's the H-back. Right. He can catch the ball out the backfield. He can run the ball. He blocks well. So he's a triple threat all the way around that you need on that team. I think when they signed him and they saw him play, like you said, the Raider game stands out because he made some spectacular catches in the Raiders game. You got to give him his props. Right. But you also saw in the playoffs when he was playing, the blocks he made for Derrick Henry to free him up is really for a running team. I think that position is key, and I think he is very key when he showed he's able to catch the ball. Yeah, I think he's going to he's going to be the X factor for them keeping 4 backs at least. You got to figure Blasingame, Derrick Henry, Darrynton Evans, and that's why you say Dalen Dawkins, Sean Wilson, Cameron Scarlett, those guys are probably not going to make it simply because Sonoris Perry will probably be the 4th one.
Right, and Perry plays special teams for Buffalo, so he's already got that experience, and so he can make the team on special teams. Exactly. Right. And I want to give a shout out to Rodney Gaddis, man. He said it's been a while since he's watched this. He's back tonight, so man, Rodney, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you coming out. Glad to have you back.
Yeah, glad to have you back, man. So that pretty much covers the running back. So let's go to the QB position, Grover, because it's pretty interesting, right? So there was a big uproar because Tannehill got the 4-year, over $100 million contract extension to stay with the team for the next 4 years. 12 games, he had 2,700 yards passing, 9.6 average, which was first in the NFL. 22 TDs, 6 interceptions, over 70% completion, which is third, and then the number 1 passer rate in the NFL. Again, that didn't happen without Derrick Henry and the offensive line doing what they did, A.J. Brown doing what he did, Corey Davis when he caught the ball, Jonnu Smith. A lot of working pieces make this offense go. But, Tannehill played well considering what he did with Miami. Now, we got him for 16 games this year. So, we'll see. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong, because he's better than majority of the quarterbacks in the AFC South, except for Deshaun Watson, and then Phillip Rivers. You can argue one way or the other at this point in his career. And if you look at the AFC as a whole, he ranks top 10, in my opinion, as far as the quarterbacks in the AFC. And so, yeah, he's Tannehill. We'll see. We'll see what happens, right? That's all I can say. We'll see what happens. And changes for him this year.
Well, and that's the thing about him too. You got to understand. I'm throwing water on the flames because I always say, like we said last year, Tannehill is Tannehill. There was a reason why Miami let him go. Now, like we also said last year, I think he's in the best situation he's ever been in his career, talent-wise around him. He never really had what you call a stalwart running back in the backfield to take the pressure off of him. He's in an offense that's run first as opposed to passing the ball first. Every head coach and every coordinator he had in Miami was always pass first. You pass to run, whereas we run to pass the ball.
Right.
The level of talent in receivers, he did not have that at Miami, and he has it here. He may have had 1, maybe 2 receivers at the most. He did have Kenny Stills. He did have Jarvis Landry in Miami. But at the same time, you couldn't keep either one of them on the field all the time. Jarvis Landry was his most reliable receiver. Tight ends were really not that great. So, yeah, I would say this for Ryan Tannehill. If the key for him is being able to, 1, get the ball out quicker, understanding the plays. He's got to play with that. He's really got to play with that same reckless abandon that he played with when he came in for Marcus last year. He's got to keep that same attitude. You earned a big contract, and that's good. It's still a team-friendly contract. It's basically a 2-year deal, similar to what Derrick Henry got. And what it does, it buys us time to finally get a young quarterback in. Our problem really at the quarterback position is not really Tannehill.
The backup.
It's the backup.
So since you segued into that.
I'm just going to say it.
Thank you for that softball. So Logan Woodside, Cole McDonald. Now that's what we got. That's what we got right now on this football team. Now, knowing that you can have 80 players for the preseason there is right now. All right, there's cap space, and there's 2 names off the top backup quarterback. Colin Kaepernick is one. And I don't jump through the screen when I say this other name. But just think about it. Blake Bortles. I know. But Blake Bortles is better than Logan Woodside. He's better than Cole McDonald. Why? Because he's got game experience. I'm not saying he's the best option, but he's an option.
Dude.
He is an option.
Dude, that's questionable.
He's better than Blaine Gabbert.
Well, that's true. That much is true.
I got that from Jabbar.
But yeah, no, that's questionable, man. Let's be honest about it. You don't really want to get caught up in that with Blake Bortles. Okay, let me put it like this. The one thing about Blake Bortles that, if you want to say there's a good side of it, he's really, in all honesty, the same type of quarterback as Ryan Tannehill.
Pretty much.
Tannehill makes better decisions, throws a better ball, but Blake Bortles is the same type of quarterback. If he's got a running game that's strong and got a good defense where you're not counting on him to win the game, he can get out there and play good and make some plays for you.
Yeah.
But, and I will give him this, I'll give you this, because the NFL experience he has, he's been a starter in the league. That does give him a leg up over Logan Woodside. I will give you that. But
I got to get some of these comments, girl, out because
I know people are losing their minds, man.
He said, Deion said, man, Grover's better than Blaine Gabbert. You're right. I would hope so.
And I can't even throw the balls on.
So I'm gonna go back, Grover, because we got some in that I want to get addressed. I like to get all the comments addressed if we can. And so Jabbar says, you think Darrynton Evans gets more reps as a returner? I think so. Right off the bat, you think about it, he could get some kickoff return. He could get some punt return. If they really want to try to keep Adam Humphries healthy as far as punt return goes, and then, you got Khalif Raymond. Does he get kickoff return duties, or Darrynton Evans? So he might get some reps back there as kickoff returner.
Well, let's be honest about it. They are looking for they need somebody to return punts.
Yeah.
And you notice because Adam Humphries was hurt, he didn't return. He wasn't in there for punts for the playoff games and everything. It was Davis who was running back punts and everything. So that's the thing you look at. They're definitely looking for a punt returner, and they would prefer not to use Khalif Raymond, I would think, as a kick returner. But you got to give him his credit. He has the speed. And he's desperate to stay with the team. I mean, come on now. You made it to the AFC Championship game and contributed. After being with so many different teams, you want to stay here because you think they got something going on.
Right.
So yeah, they got to Darrynton Evans could definitely be used. I think probably more in the kickoffs as opposed to punt returns. Punt returns, man, that's a monster job, man. It takes a special guy to do punt returns.
It does. You're right.
So
you got guys running full speed at you.
And on top of that, learning how to make the right decisions.
Right.
The one thing we saw last year was really Adoree, the past couple of years before they took it away from him, Adoree Jackson making some really poor decisions.
Very poor.
In punt return situations, which really just didn't make any sense. So you need somebody back there who won't panic. Let's just be like that, because you can't panic in punt returns.
Right.
You got to understand, one, chances of you getting hit are 99.9%. So you're going to deal with that. You got to have that type of mentality that it doesn't bother you. And you can tell with Adoree Jackson, it bothered him. He struggled making decisions on punt returns. He just did.
Right. So a couple more comments, Grover. Deion says J-Rod would like Blasingame coming out. That's why he snatched him off the practice squad from the Vikes. Yeah, we agree with you on that. Rodney Gaddis says, what are we going to do about defensive coordinators? So Rodney, last couple weeks we talked about that somewhat and said that, we'll probably see Vrabel with a combination of Hazlitt, and he might end up being the DC. We don't know. We hadn't seen that dynamic work just yet. And again, without the lack of a preseason, I think it's going to be kind of difficult to get that feeling of a game situation. To see, if that's something Vrabel will handle by himself, or, he rely on a core group of coaches on the defense side of the ball, whatever that might look like. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, let's be honest about it, man. You can't have 5 opinions when you're trying to make a defensive call.
Right, exactly.
You got to make the call and go with it. So it's going to be one voice giving out the call and everything, and that's going to be it. The thing about it this year for us is that we really won't get to see it. Who's going to be the one? We won't know to game 1. With no preseason, we won't get to see what they're doing. We can't go to practices. And like we said, these inter-squad scrimmages they're going to have, that's when you're going to find out who's going to be your DC. And we won't get to see that. So we won't know till September the 14th.
And you don't even know it. We won't even know if the scheme has changed. If it's still a 3-4, is it a 4-3, is it a 50? Whatever it might be.
We're pretty sure it's going to be a 3-4 because they kept the inside linebacker coach and the outside linebacker coach.
I'm just saying, you just don't know what kind of wrinkles you're going to see out of those defensive schemes with the new defensive play calling system. I'm saying,
and you think about this. You don't. The other thing we don't know, and Vrabel's not showing his cards. We don't know really who Dean Pease prepared to take his place.
True.
Let's be honest about it. We don't know. Because I'm sure after that incident that happened in Indianapolis 2 years ago, I'm sure his wife told him, look, you're going to give this up. He probably went with Vrabel last year, said this is going to have to be my last year. I ain't got nothing else. So we don't know who he prepared to take over. It could very well be the linebacker coach that he talked about. It could very well be him. I just know they don't want to. They probably want to be a little bit more aggressive in the play call.
Right. And so Deion says he did a little homework on Tanny, and Tanny gets a raw deal because of how he played in Miami, which I believe is true to some extent. Deion, not saying he's elite, but he is a lot better than he gets credit for. And he's got a chip on his shoulder, right? He made it to the AFC Championship game, and everybody's still doubting his skill set and saying he got paid too much money. And so I think a lot of players on this football team got chips on their shoulders.
Absolutely.
Still no respect, somewhat. Still not picked as one of the favorite teams out of AFC after they made that run to the championship game, and very well could have beat Kansas City after, except for a few plays here and there. And so, we'll see, man. It's going to be an interesting 2020 season. Rodney,
to say the least.
Right, we'll see. Rodney says Khalif Raymond's the deep receiver. Yeah, we agree with you on that, man. Deion says Mark Mariani.
Yeah, but Mariani's problem was that he couldn't stay. He kept getting broke up. So
that's right.
You got to be durable.
And so, man, as we wrap up this position now, pretty set, except for the backup quarterback, which we'll see. Like I said, there's still a lot of things that can fall into place here in the next few weeks. You just never know. With physicals now being available by the team, they could pull off the Clowney deal finally, make some more moves, and then bring in the backup quarterback. Why not Colin Kaepernick? I mean,
here's my
man. Now we're gonna go with it.
Now I would say this. Colin Kaepernick. My only problem with Colin Kaepernick, in all honesty, he hasn't played in 3-4 years.
Right.
That's my only problem.
That's true.
That's the only thing I can see that really hindered him as far as being able to play. He just hasn't played in a long time. That's a long time to be out, man. You know that.
Right.
I mean, granted, it's a quarterback position, and, he hasn't really been doing a whole lot of working out on that, at least not that we've heard. So that's my only concern with him is just the fact that he's been out for so long.
Right. Got some more comments, Grover. Let me slide them in here real quick. Jabbar says, hoping that Vrabel learned his head coach DC from Belichick. Pat's always naming DC, but Belichick does majority of the play calling. Deion says, as long as the DC is not Jerry Gray.
Oh, man.
You think Vrabel will surprise us in a good way.
Jerry Gray.
Will says, if we had beat KC in the AFC Championship game, well, how big you think the chance would have been to win the Super Bowl against the 49ers? That's a good question because you really think about it, the teams are pretty similar to each other, San Francisco and the Titans. Both are running football team. Garoppolo, almost the same old as Tannehill. And so it would have been a good hard-nosed football game. You'd have seen a physical football game, more physical, I think, than what KC gave them, because KC,
Yeah,
football team.
Yeah, the thing you like about that game is that not only do both defenses play physical, but both offenses are run first offenses. Even though Kyle Shanahan is a quote unquote offensive guru or whatever the case may be, but they're a run first offense. Don't let nobody fool you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you got to be disciplined when you play them. You got to go with players because they replayed the entire playoffs on the NFL Network this weekend. Mm-hmm. And I was watching that game, the NFC Championship game against San Francisco and Green Bay.
Yeah.
Man, I was just amazed at Green Bay's defense and how they just were not reading the way they should. The safeties nor the LBs. And I was like, I think San Francisco just overwhelmed them, in all honesty.
So, man, got them coming in, man. We got to come in quick. So here's another I think is a good one right here. Let's see. Dion says, I say a smart move. We get Cap, big afro and all. Edward Lede, man, thank you for joining. He says Matt Castle and Kaepernick. Jabbar Lewis. Nah. Here's a good one. Here's the one right here. Think about this one. Didn't think about him. I forgot about him. He says Alex Smith. If he's clear to return with no guarantee.
That's true.
And if Washington cuts him, here's a guy that is a pretty solid quarterback. He was hurt all last year. We understand that. But
he's been hurt for 2 years, I think.
Right. He was hurt for 2 years, but he didn't play all last year. Now he's back. And when he gets clear for contact, why not Alex Smith if he doesn't stay with the Redskins? There's another.
Well, the thing about Alex Smith, he got cleared for full football this week. So yeah, but I don't see Washington getting rid of him simply because the quarterback they got is a second-year player, even though he played fairly decent for him. I just don't see Washington getting rid of Alex Smith. Now, I would take him, yeah. I forgot about him.
I did.
They cut him. He might be worth picking up. He's not going to give you what you need in the playoffs, but I think he's worth picking up.
Yeah, he's definitely a veteran that's got some game experience and could buy you some time if there was an injury.
Yeah, absolutely.
And probably could win you a few games, not to mention. And so, that's a good point. Dwayne Haskins and Kyle Allen's the quarterback. Yeah. So good point, Jabbar. Very good point, man. Appreciate that. So Darius says if Ryan Tannehill had started all 16 games with 11-5. Edward Lede says he meant Alex Smith, not Matt Castle. Appreciate you clearing that up, man.
Thank you.
Dion
Bottom like Matt Castle.
Case Keenum by Dion. It's another. I don't know.
That's a reject from the pretty man. I'm not sure if I can deal with that one, man.
So, guys, thank you for the comments and the questions, man. Another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnett, G Witt.
Tighten up, baby. It's training camp time.
We're here, man. 2 more days. Training camp officially opens. Players come on site. We start the COVID testing and their little quarantine time, and then they'll start working out. So, man, hopefully we'll see. We'll see. It's the beginning of the road, a long road, but we'll see if any games materialize in the 1st of September.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. One thing I was thinking about, even when you see all of Derrick Henry's workouts on social media and everything, is like how much stretching they're doing, just to stay warm and loose and everything, because that's going to be a key to these injuries and everything that may happen. Again, I would love if there's a time for old school football, I would say we're ahead of the game, because one thing we got old school football team, hard nosed running, solid defense, and efficient passing, and that's what you need. We're going back to the 70s, baby. It's going to be real football, with the exception of the hits. I would say that.
Right, exactly. And don't be surprised out there that you won't see sloppy football for the first 3 or 4 weeks. It's gonna be pretty sloppy because again, you don't have the game action. You don't have the game speed. No matter how you scrimmage in practice, it's not game speed.
It's not game speed. And even when you think about it, Eddie, when you think about, like we always said this, there are basically 3 different speed levels in the NFL: preseason, fits more to the college game, you know, and that's preseason practice. Their speed is like what you play in college. That's why you see a lot of the rookies and a lot of the free agents, they do well in preseason because it's played at college speed, so they're used to that. Then you got the regular season, which it picks up a notch. Mm-hmm. Everybody's not used to that. And that does a lot of, that's what you call, as they say in the movie Drumline, that's the tree shaking ceremony.
Tree shaking elimination.
Tree shaking elimination, man, because all of a sudden the game gets a lot faster. Those openings you had in the preseason are no longer there. And then, of course, the playoffs is even worse. You know, it's even faster than that, and the holes are smaller. So it's going to be interesting, really. Teams who are better prepared in practice, who utilizes the full padded practice in a constructive way to simulate game action. Mm-hmm. Those are the teams you're going to see better prepared for the regular season. And I would say this: teams that run the ball very well are probably going to lead the pack at the beginning, simply because they have it all ready together. So if you got a strong running game at the beginning, you will probably come out the well pretty strong. And if your defense is good stopping the run, you're probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the teams that don't run the football primarily won't have a good start to the season, but you got to think about it, man. Think about, you know, Tom Brady getting here with his receivers and getting that chemistry down and things like that of that nature. So many people have changed teams. It's gonna be difficult to get that chemistry in those few weeks. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And Case Keenum, he is on the Browns football team. Thanks for that. Ed Leday says, what do we think about Darrington Evans from App State? Ed, we talked about him and said he's going to be an X factor for this football team as far as a backup running back is concerned. And if he can run the football and not be a Deion Lewis, and where the defense is not afraid of his running ability when he comes in the game, it'll be all the more better because he's fast, he's a tough running back, and he's got a lot of carries, not turning the ball over. So he's going to be an explosive weapon for this offense to go along with the receiving core and the tight end position. And I think it's going to be a good thing to see going down the line.
Like I said, he's got to be a threat running the ball. That's really one of the most important things about his game that's got to come out. He's got to be a threat running the ball, because once he comes in, teams have got to be realized it can go either way.
Exactly. So again, thank you guys for joining us for another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnell, G-Wit.
Tighten up, baby. Tighten up.
2020 season is here. Training camp this week. I don't know how much we're going to get to see on ESPN and NFL Network behind the scenes. It might not be a lot, but we'll see and see if any moves are going to be made this week with physicals now being open for free agents. So we'll see, man. We'll see if Clowney comes to the building this week.
Well, here's the thing, man. One of the reasons why you saw them, like we said earlier, cut the players down, those free agents that they released today, is the practice schedule. That way they can have everybody on the field at one time. If you can have 90 players in your training camp, but if you do that, you got to have split squad practices, and they don't want to do that.
That's right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this works out and who's going to be here and who isn't. And again, like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how the conditioning goes, because that's the main thing. At least they're giving them a solid week or a week and a half of conditioning.
Yeah, just about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be the key point. And then again, with starting up with the practices and the padded practices, letting everybody know we're getting ready to have games in practice, man. It's getting ready to get ugly. You might hear about some fights, man.
I got to get these comments in, Grove, man. I appreciate y'all. Thanks the love. He said, Deion says he hopes the Braves listen to you, Grove. He said having boys playing games and practice set of conditioning. Rodney says, what's the deal with Clowney? Wait, and Will says, please don't ask G-Wit about Clowney. Man, I love y'all, man. I love y'all's questions and comments.
Hey, that shows he's a consistent listener, because he's already Clowney is Clowney, man. I told you, man. You know, hey, look.
Oh,
Clowney's good against the run, man. He's not the answer to the pass rush.
Hey, Rodney, go back and look at the past few week shows. Everybody's saying that about Clowney and G-Wit, man. He gets fired up talking about Clowney.
I just tell, hey man, look, I gotta call it like I see it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. Oh man, but don't be surprised. I'm telling you, don't be surprised if he's taking a physical this week with the Titans.
It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with him. But his problem is he really wants to break the bank, and I don't think anybody wants to break the bank with him this year.
He's gonna come off that if he's gonna play in 2020. I'm telling you that right now. Because
he's gonna come off that if he's gonna play with the Tennessee Titans. Because J. Rob ain't going for that.
Well, you know who's moved on from him is the Seattle Seahawks when they traded.
Yeah, I know. Jamal Adams.
They've moved on from Cloudy, and so his options are getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, they paid a lot for Jamal Adams.
They did.
They paid a lot, but you should look at his stats, man. He's a baller. He's gonna help that defense.
They're trying to resurrect that Legion of Boom.
Legion of Boom, exactly right.
Project Diggs and the other safety, him and the other safety, and the other side of the cornerback, and so they're trying to resurrect the new version of the Legion of Boom. But anyway, man, we appreciate y'all. Comments. Dion says, "Put that water bucket down, bro." We talking about you. We appreciate y'all.
He's tired of me dousing the flames, man. But I got to be real about it, man. I don't sugarcoat it now. I got to be real about it. But hopefully, it's just one of them things, man. I'm sorry. This is the most unusual NFL season I've seen ever. So this is going to be really interesting.
Right. Guys, thank you again for joining us. Hey down there, G-Wit, man. We'll check you out next time on the next live show. We'll put that out when that day and time is. But until then, y'all take it easy. Stay safe. Hey down there, G-Wit, halftime adjustments. Peace.
Peace.